Hello, I'm Chrissy Seaton and welcome back to my YouTube channel, My Noahide Family. We're continuing on today looking at Psalm number 54. Now, you'll notice by the title I've said that I can complain only to you, God. And we're going to see that in the context of the psalm and also how we apply that in everyday living of our own world. So let's take a little look. And we've all been in a situation where we want to have a whinge, or we need to gripe about something, or we're not happy about something. Something's got under our skin and we want to, do something about it. So the best way to go about this is to discuss this with our loving Father, with Hashem. We could share anything with Hashem, anything at all. And so if we're in a situation where we want to have a gripe or a whinge, or something's grating on your nerves, the best thing to do is wash your hands, brighten your face up a little bit, wake yourself up, sit down and say, okay, Hashem, this is the problem. This is my whinge. This is my gripe, etc. And when you do that, somehow or other, things seem to fall into place. Things seem to look brighter. There's more clarity about a situation. So therefore, things kind of just go along, and not so that you'd notice always in one big hit, but suddenly you think, oh, that situation's dissipated or solved itself or whatever. So always start by speaking to Hashem about it. Don't go running off at the mouth and blowing the stack, as we call it, because that does nothing. That just compounds the problem. And so this Psalm 54 is a good example of that. It's only about 9 verses to it, but it's action-packed, as are all Psalms. So let's have a little look at this now and see how we can relate to it, and it certainly applied in our own daily life. So we begin with a little brief explanation on Psalm 54. And it says this psalm is David's reaction to the slander of the Zephonites. Now that is quoted in 1 Samuel chapters 23 and 26, and you can look that up. According to one view, they were from the tribe of Judah, thus rendering their betrayal of David worse than that of Doeg, because they were his fellow tribesmen. David was so depressed by their abominable conduct that he employed special musical instruments to accompany this Psalm 54, in order to lift his spirits to a level of prophetic ecstasy. Okay, so that was just an introduction to Psalm 54. And now, having read that, I'll read the actual psalm, and then we'll come back and look at each verse and give it put some clarity in our minds about it. So first of all, we'll do the psalm. Psalm 54, for the conductor with the neganos, a maskil by David. When the Zephonites came and said to Saul, is not David in hiding among us? O God, by your name, save me, and by your might, vindicate me. So this is David talking here. O God, hear my prayer, give ear to the utterances of my mouth. For strangers have risen up against me, and oppressors have sought my soul. They have not set God before themselves. Selah. Now, Selah, S-E-L-A-H, that's an expression sort of like, behold, God is my helper. I should have, sometimes my fingers are a bit numb. So we go on. Psalm 6, behold, God is my helper. The Lord is with the supporters of my soul. Then it goes on and says, may he repay the evil to my watchful enemies. In your truth, cut them down. Goes on, with a free will offering, I will sacrifice to you. I will thank your name, Hashem, for it is good. For from every distress he has rescued me, and upon my foes my eye has looked. So that's the verses. Now let's see what each of those verses are talking about, a bit more insight into them. So verse 1 is saying a maskil. Now this psalm of instruction teaches a vital lesson. Although David was in mortal danger as a result of the treachery of the Ziphites, he did not despair, but he prayed for Hashem's mercy in this apparently hopeless situation. This illustrates David's creed. In other words, even when a lethal sword is poised at a person's throat, he should not refrain from beseeching God's mercy. So no situation can come upon us without we can't cry out to Hashem, our loving Father. Goes on now in verse 2, the explanation. When the Ziphites came, actually the Ziphites betrayed David to Saul twice. So it's on two occasions, and you can refer to that in Samuel chapter 23 and chapter 26. Now it suggests that David composed this psalm the second time. At the first episode, it is arguable that the Ziphites came to Saul's aid against David out of fear of King Saul's wrath. However, after this first incident, Saul and David had reconciled. So the second slanderous report rekindled the flames of dispute. That gives us some background. Now, Anne said to Saul this statement. Now Solomon said, if a ruler pays heed to lies, all his servants will be wicked. So it was in Israel. When the Ziphites noticed that Saul was influenced by slander against David, they also felt encouraged to betray him. Yeah? Monkey see, monkey do. Saul was eager to hear evil reports from others, such as Doeg the Edomite. Now, observing this, the Ziphites did not hesitate to slander David to Saul. Verse 3 explanation says, O God, by your name, save me. Now David said to the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of the universe, when an officer persecutes a man, the man can complain to a prefect, meaning a person's higher up. And it goes on and says, if the prefect persecutes him, he can complain to the emperor. Higher up again, see? But if the emperor persecutes a man, to whom can he complain? Saul is king. To whom shall I complain about him? Meaning, where do I go now to complain about Saul? I can complain only to you, meaning Hashem. I can complain to you, God. And that sort of puts it in a nutshell. You know, we can... Who else would you entrust with those concerns or complaint, whatever? Hashem, God. Now, verse number 4 says, O God, hear my prayer. Now, the prayer is the inner unspoken request of the heart. Can't put it any better than that, can you? Prayer, the inner unspoken request of the heart. Now, the Zohar teaches that God rejects the prayers of those who spread evil tales. Therefore, David asked God to hear his prayers but not those of the Ziphites. That's understandable. Verse number 5 goes on and says, for strangers have risen up against me. Now the Ziphites estranged themselves to David, their relative, by supporting Saul, who was a stranger to them. Now it goes on and says, the oppressors have sought my soul. This refers to Doeg and Achitophel. Now, whereas the Ziphites threatened only my body, they assaulted my soul as well. So, it's a double whammy, isn't it? Now, not only did they challenge me with weapons, but they attacked me with arguments from the Torah, claiming that as a result of my sins, my soul would never merit the world to come. How wrong can they be? Continuing on, still in verse 5, it says, they have not set God before themselves. Now, this short statement is something we are seeing over and over and over with monotonous regularity throughout this world we are living in at this current time. I'll repeat it. They have not set God before themselves. Now, meaning they failed to consider the warning contained in the Torah. And there's a reference, Deuteronomy 27, verse 24. Cursed be he who smites his friend in secret through slander. Moving on to verse 6 now. It says, behold, God is my helper, therefore slander cannot harm me. Now, what was the outcome of the Ziphite treachery? Now, Saul and his army surrounded David in a trap from which there seemed to be no possible escape. Suddenly, however, beg your pardon, a messenger appeared, summoning Saul to depart immediately to protect the land from a surprise Philistine invasion. There's a reference here, 1 Samuel chapter 23, verses 27 and 28. Now, David declares that he recognises that it was God himself who rescued him from the death trap by sending an angel to serve as the messenger. Now, the Lord is the statement, the Lord is with the supporters of my soul. Now, David prays for the welfare and the success of those who support him. Furthermore, David recognises that any help he receives from men is actually a manifestation of Hashem's workings and Hashem's favour to him. Now, we cross over now to verse 7, it says, in your truth, cut them down. Your attribute of truth demands that you keep your word and punish slanderers, and install me as the king. Now, further to that, we go now into verse 8, and it says, with a free will offering I will sacrifice to you. I cannot bring thanksgiving offering because that is appropriate where a dangerous situation has been resolved with the satisfaction of all those involved. In this case, though, however, God is saddened because he must destroy those of his creatures who threatened me, meaning David. Therefore, I will bring merely a free will offering to demonstrate my appreciation for my personal salvation. Just that verse alone is mind-boggling, isn't it? So now we go into the final verse, verse 9, where it says, for from every distress he has rescued me. In other words, God has mercifully saved me from a myriad of misfortunes, of which I will always remain unaware. Now, let's just stop here. Let's just consider my favourite example. You're running late, you come to get in your car to go to work, you've got a flat tyre. So you've got to either call someone to fix it or spend time fixing it. You're going to be late and you're in a real royal fluster. Oh, I'm going to be late. But you must remember that that flat tyre was at the will of God. What it has prevented happening to you through that delay, you will never know. It may be a terrible road accident or something like that, that you will never know why. So instead of seeing that flat tyre as a dreadful inconvenience in your day, say, it's your will, Hashem. Thank you. I know there's a reason this has happened. I know there's a reason. And get on with your day. I use that flat tyre example a lot throughout my videos. So what you see as an inconvenience sometimes by something cropping up and messing up your day or your morning or your time sheet or whatever, is there's a will and God has a purpose for doing that in your day. So it will repeat this again. For from every distress he has rescued me. God, distresses that we will never know. God has mercifully saved me from myriads of misfortunes, of which I will always remain unaware. For this too I must render him thanks. Now that's verse 9. The last verse, it continues on also in verse 9, and upon my foes my eye has looked and seen that it desired to see. Now, it's added here that to David the most pleasing part of the miracle was that he was saved from the slanderous reports of the Ziphites without having to battle or spill blood. Thus I saw the enemy, yet did not have to fight him. So let me get back to the flat tyre. What that saved you from could have been a tragic accident, all sorts of injuries, loss of limb, losses of life somewhere along the way. So just think of it. Next time you have that minor inconvenience of a flat tyre, be grateful and say, thank you, Hashem. I know this is a blessing from you. And that's the way we have to start thinking. And as easy as it is to thank Hashem for a blessing, so it is if there's a little inconvenience in our life, we should be saying the same thing. Or if we want to complain or something's eating at us, the right person to discuss this with is Hashem. Because he knows everything that's going on in your life. He knows what you need to do. So, let's not complicate our loving relationship with our loving Father. Let's not complicate it. Put it on a simple, basic, one-to-one level, you and Hashem. Every day, every moment of the day, he is there. He is there. So we must learn to be grateful for that. So like David, how Hashem may have seen the enemy or the danger, but has spared us from us. We don't have to engage in that danger or problem because he's stepped in and prevented us from doing something or being somewhere at a certain time in order that we avoid a tragedy or a heartbreak. I want to thank you all again for your comments and questions, etc. And I do get quite a lot of emails and I appreciate those and I answer them as quickly as I can, but it may be a day or two before I get them all. Sometimes I get a flood of emails and other times it's just dribs and drabs. It depends, just depends. But I do try my best to address those things, and if I can't, I will give you a link to where you'll be able to find the information you need. But in the meantime, please take care and God bless.